There has been enough volatility in the market. Things got scary. Right now, if you're watching the price action, you are really observing that this is what's happening. If you zoom out, you do see an optimistic year ahead instead of being fear mongered by a lot of different people. Yes, short term, the zoomed in view also becomes important because, as we discussed, now we are bouncing through and we really would like to see the price coming higher and touching 2400, breaking to that level of 2600. As you see the macro on the Bitcoin dominant side, don't get confused once you slowly start going into the weeds. Now you get to understand, okay, this is a short-term reversal signal. If that happens, this is the pattern. We've dropped like 4%, close to that. And last time when we did that, we went up. So extending these patterns, this is what you actually get. You reach 48%. Now, why is that level so important? Because if you take another step back, that has been a level of resistance, a long-term one. And once we go back looking at last 5-6 years, there's what we see. Last time in the last cycle, we got first 40% drop, then a consolidation, then another 40% drop, then a consolidation, then another 50% drop. This time around, it was different. In 2021, we got 46% drop first, then a long-term consolidation. We didn't yet drop the next leg. So the big giant drop in this BTC dominance does mean you're going to see a lot more fluctuations happening. But the fundamental is going to be a huge part in this. We are literally observing banks being kicked out. Literally. These are not shit coins. These are banks dropping 60%. Not small banks. These are like, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of assets. And what people need to keep in mind is all of these banks, when you're looking at them, it kind of goes into another bank. It kind of goes into another bank. So at the top sits the Citi, the JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. And if you are looking at these banks and their stocks right now, you are literally getting shaken because some of them already dropped 40%. Some of them are showing they're going to drop another 40%. So this is going to be really interesting if you're watching what's happening in the market, because this is literally scary. And what we are trying to understand is, can this go bad from here? We dropped, yes, while we are looking at this, that was a massive drop, scary one, reaching the 200-day moving average. And as we move out, we see, okay, there is a pattern evolving. It does see like we are reaching a support level. And once we zoom out on the macro, it kind of gives us a clear picture. Okay, this is what we are doing. We had the first impulse. We had the second impulse. What are we waiting for? Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. The market has been so crazy, so we've been keeping it alive. We've been going through almost everything possible, looking at what's happening with the market, the macro, the crypto, and we are trying to understand what is happening right now. The short-term pattern here, which we're observing, is not that bad. But what we have to understand is it's just going to be a retest of this level which we broke below. But yes, on the other aisle of this, while that happens, we will see some of these coins pumping. Now, if we go back, we did have a thought process saying, okay, I think that if this is happening, then this asset may actually start to move up. And we are observing that right now in the market. It's starting to get more volume. So what really is happening in the market? There's a lot of different coins which are now starting to pump. Now, why is that so important? Because by the time Bitcoin come back up to 21,500 to retest this range, which is a critical range, you may actually see some of these altcoins which dropped massively already come back to the recent highs. So if you are in those assets, that gives you an opportunity, right? So understanding this is going to be key, as I believe it is. Now, if I look at Ether, the RSI just broke to the downside. price has not yet reached the support. Now that's the macro support, but if you look for the short-term support, you do have one which the price just touched down. So it actually boils down to moving into different times and looking at what the market is showing us. The price or the sellers did try to push this lower. Look at that particular candle. That's a hammer pattern which actually came in, followed by a green candle. Now, it's not yet confirmed. The day has just started, so we have another 24 hours to see what really is happening. Now, that's the case for Ether. Now, when we jump onto XRP to look like what's happening there, we literally got a similar candle. The difference being, here the body of the candle was pushed so up and you didn't get much of a wick to the upside, whereas in XRP, you are seeing even after that, you are literally getting the negative momentum coming in. You are still retesting this trend line in the RSI. That's all good. But what we want to see is this level holding, because the channel is great. It is fine. But on the other aisle of this, we are looking for that macro level of support. So holding on to this current level is going to be really important as Bitcoin moves back up. Now, here, what we have to again reiterate is that's going to be a short level of range, which if we break back up shows like, okay, that was a capitulation which, overextended, which really got overextended because of what's happening in the markets. It's not just some banks. We are observing the dollar getting movement, volatile movement. We are observing like the Dow Jones breaking through. Now, we literally had the call saying, okay, if we are breaking this range, I think we are entering into a panic era, right? And while looking back at this, I'm like, okay, we did get that panic. Now, the market at first was pricing in a 50 basis point hike by the Fed. Then right now, the market is showing, no. There is no consensus about that. Some think it's going to be 25 basis point. And, before this was starting, I was like, okay, this can be a possibility where Fed says, okay, the market is just overreacting. We were not about to do a 50 basis point hike. That's the possibility, right? You cannot neglect that room. And then I see this tweet from Cram and I'm like, wow. If that guy is actually saying this and the inverse Cramer thing works out, JP Morgan, as I just showed you, is like all these banks. Just one bank going bust last time in 2008, Lehman, you know what happened and how it all ended. And this time, if we are talking about the king here at the top, that may not actually look great. And that is one of the reasons why we are thinking about governments, the Fed, the bailouts. Maybe it's the bail-in this time. We don't know. We'll have to see how things work out. But keeping your money safe is going to be really hard this time around because the governments are so sick and tired of you having money because they don't want you to do that. That's why they're pushing the interest rate as much as possible by the central banks so that your purchasing power goes down. So now while we are in crypto and we are trying to look for what's happening, say XRP on the short-term narrative, yes, we got that candle, but right now we're still waiting for something bullish. We need to actually observe that this is going back up. Say, for example, you come into another asset here. This is an INJ, injective protocol. You really want to look for what the hell is happening in that asset that it is moving back up. Fine. And here we go. We actually got an engulfing candle suggesting that, okay, bulls are trying to become active. But again, the key point here, which I think is correct, is that we are retesting a range of resistance. That was a previous support. We broke that level. Now it is acting as a resistance. So if you manage to break back in, now the recent highs, the local highs, is going to be the resistance, which is going to be your target. That's a short-term movement, right? So this panic level gets erased soon. Now, think about this for a moment. The panic came in, the market dropped, and you are now going through a V-shaped recovery in some of these assets. That is nuts. Meaning, that just means it was a huge shakeout in the market, pushing a lot of people out. Before what? Ask that question. If that shakeout was something like kicking a lot of people out before a big bull run, right? That's what we talked about here. That's what we are trying to look for to understand, is that really a possibility? Because as you zoom out, now you get the big picture. And that's why I always suggest that, guys, don't just go into the short-term volatility and get emotional. Take a step back, look at this. There's a macro structure where the RSI came in, it's bouncing back up. Why does that really matter? Because if you remove all of this and you're like, okay, I don't need much of a noise, just look at this. This has been that range of accumulation. You broke that level to the upside. Now you're coming back, retesting that and bouncing. Now go back to any of these, say Cardano, IOTA, Ether. You go back to 2021. While we were starting that run up, we were coming off of this pattern. That was something similar. You may have to go on a higher time frame structure to get that clarity. Say this is the accumulation. You broke higher, you came back, dipped into that range, went back up. Then what happened? From that level, you just went nuts. If you want to put the number, it's literally like a 30x to the upside. I'm not saying INJ is about to do a 30x or a 100x, but I'm suggesting you take time to look for assets which are doing this. You're breaking above the accumulation range, you're coming back, testing that range and bouncing. That's one of the reasons why we are going through a lot of these different charts, different assets to keep you updated about the macro of a lot of these assets, because I think it's important and I still believe in this year's bull run. I still believe the music is about to start, and I was saying the same 10 days back. I'm saying the same thing right now because I do believe volatility and manipulation is going to be a part of this game. Holding on to these assets while they pop is going to be hard because in between you're going to see these happening left and right. Literally. Now, understand one part. The initial thought process of crypto was like, okay, I don't need banks. I'm moving into this asset. Why? And that's where it gets really interesting. If the banking structure is dropping like a stone and you need a new financial infrastructure, because the credit-based system which we have right now is getting demolished, now that goes back to new technology, new understanding, new infrastructure. And I'm like, okay, somewhere in the line, there is going to be XRP involved. Maybe not in the US, but outside US. And US is not the entire world, like the Avengers come to save the world and save the US. That's a different story. If you look for the population, the major part of that is in India, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh. That's where majority of the population is. And if you look for next 3 to 5 years projection, and we'll wait and see that 5 years, right? It's going to be that range, and they are doubling down on this technology. They are giving more clarity. And nearby that, like the Middle East, the Europe, you're getting to see clarity coming in. So that means this financial crisis can be a huge opportunity for the technology which was created because of this same thing. The financial crisis of 2008 is what developed or pushed for crypto assets. So I believe, I can be wrong, but I believe this financial crisis is going to be historic generational wealth creation opportunity. If you are focused, if you are here in this market, if you are trying to double down, if you are trying to learn more about different assets and accumulate, that's going to be really hard. Because when the price drops like this, it plays with your emotion. So standing that way, zooming out and understanding what's to come, and then understanding which of these assets are in wave 2, the biggest run up, and which of these assets are going to be in the wave 3. That's another part here, right? This one just show you like, okay, I'm just starting wave 1, right, in this micro structure. Because if you look for this, you actually get macro wave 1 here, dropping back, starting the wave 2. And if for the wave 2, you're just doing the microwave 1, that means if you put that correctly, now we have seen many different assets showing way higher price fluctuations. So if you actually plot this correctly, you will actually say something close to this range is going to be the next target of the next wave structure. That's an opportunity, meaning currently it's $3. And if it's going to like $20, that is certainly an opportunity. But again, you go back, you look at a lot of these assets. where some of this actually show you like it's nuts. First wave was 260%, the next one was 5,000%, which is first was 2.5x, the next one is 50x. Wow, that's 20 times wave 1 and wave 2. Now you're like, is that one off? You go back in history to see what happened before that, and it's literally like, no, that was not a one off. It performed something similar here and then again here. So I'm like, maybe this time it's not different. Maybe this time we are going to see something similar. We don't know. But saying that probability doesn't exist is what pushes you to the other side, away from the opportunity, right? And that's why we put on our time going through a lot of these assets, trying to understand what we have here in the market, trying to understand which of these assets have a long way to the upside. And if you want to be a part of that, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. Now, going back to XRP, which is, one of the biggest holding for a lot of us, this is not that scary if you have time, if you have patience. Now, we have spent the most time with patience while a lot of other assets were going up, right? So the patience was not that easy. But right now, we are still holding this trend line. We didn't break that to the downside, which is a positive thing in my opinion. And right now, after this recent drop, we started from 0.43, close to that, and we dropped till 0.36. But on a weekly time horizon, right now we are observing an inverted hammer pattern. So I'm like, something bullish is trying to materialize. But then I want to go back in time and learn what it did previously. Because this is really important. Yes, that was at a support zone, a support resistance zone, but we got pushed even lower at that time. But why was that? That was the Luna crash, the crisis, right? That was panic in the market. Right now we do have panic, but that was completely crypto-related panic where they were just scamming people, literally, right? Now, all this is to say, macro is still bullish. Because if you believe the SEC case was completely destroying this asset, the price would be somewhere here. Now keep that in mind. This asset rallied like this to the sky and it is still consolidating in that range. If you believe the asset is done because of the SEC case, I think, maybe the morons on the other side with the gate may push that agenda, but you literally have to ask yourself, if that was the case, then we would have been at least below this level. Now, we are supporting this macro support from a very long time. That kind of gives you a real perspective to think about. Wow, okay, maybe we may drop till here. That's going to be a huge opportunity. Now, if that's to happen, what is it going to be? The event which pushes XRP to that range. Now, that's two possibilities. One, the judge rules negative, hammered. You come back down to that range. If the judge says no, the secondary market sales is not a security, which will be in line with the other case in library, that means you directly go towards $2. You're testing this range of previous resistance. So the case is going to be a huge part for XRP and the market sentiment as well, because the market sentiment changes, these assets are popping, XRP will also join. Remember this, XRP did run up even with the SEC case in between. It did a 16x. Now, the entire market for the altcoins did an average of 35 and we did half of that. Agreed, but we still did that 16x with the SEC case. So if the market is about to do a 40x, hope we are going to do that major run up for 16 to 20x. Now put that number into perspective. We are not talking about hundreds of dollars. We're saying, okay, somewhere close to $8 to $10 still possible if the case is alive. But what if the case actually gets resolved in a positive way for the secondary market sales? You are going to join the actual party. You're going to look for still the $18 to $22 wave to target. That's going to be huge. And if you think that's possible and you're waiting for that, try educating yourself about almost everything as much as possible in the meantime. And that's why we share this information here. If you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. That supports the channel a lot. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.